What's going on, everybody? It's your boy C-Zar, and we are talking about Bitcoin today. We're going to talk about a few things today. It's going to be, I think, a good video, an exciting video. Maybe a revealing video is a better way to describe what I'm going for here. What I'd like to do is basically identify the phase of the bull cycle that we're in. Immediately, I want to, in the beginning of the video, I want to do that, and we'll go over what phase we're in right now. And then I want to compare this phase to the prior bull cycles and the same phases in those prior bull cycles and what we might have to look forward to, not just over the coming days, but over the coming weeks, what we can expect from out of our indicators, maybe even also over the coming months. But especially, I want to keep this kind of relative to the near-term time frames from now to like the end of the month, stuff like that. Really on this like initial mid bull market consolidation breakout move, I want to kind of compare that. So if that sounds good to you, hit that like button, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Talk about Bitcoin every day, talk about various cryptos and stocks every single day. Let's dive in. Let's do this, yeah? So what I'd like to do first is, again, go just, take kind of a stroll back in time. Identify that we had our bear market. Bear market ended here, right? The bull market didn't start there. It started here, but undeniably it started here, right? So we went up. This was our pre-halving move, right? Because the halving happened after this high, right? So the halving happened in April. It was April 20th, sometime over here, right? We had our pre-halving high, and now this is our post-halving move. Pre-halving move, post-halving move. I want to go over what we do specifically after this area, right? And I know for a lot of you, you've heard me say that after you break out of your pre-halving high, whenever you break that, within a 4-week time span, we see a 36% growth to 56% growth, and that's what's led me to believe that we're going to see prices above 100K by the end of this month of November. Likely not just above 100K, but probably like above 110K. But we'll see. I say likely. I mean there's a good chance, but that's not what I'm going over. That's not what I want to go over. I want to go over some new data in this video. Right, so to kind of identify the similar area in the last cycle, it's a lot different, right? Because we can circle it. This area here would be comparable to this area here, right? You can see the similarities, pre-halving pump, post-halving pump. Well, I guess technically the halving happened somewhere over here, so this would have been your post-halving pump, but still, you had your like mid-cycle lull. We had COVID going on, right? We had a lot of different things that were negative in in the markets around the world. Hold on. I just got to clear my throat, man. So very extended phase there. You can see here from our low, again, we ended the bull cycle. Didn't begin the bull cycle over here, but we began it over here. Our halving was here in July 9th, 2016. Pre-halving move, post-halving move, right? So little 5-month period here where we consolidated, and then this is what this is kind of the area, the initial breakout zone. I've got this line in there. It's not looking too clear. This is that consolidation zone for like 5 months that we saw, and this was that initial breakout move. I want to compare what's going on there. And then I want to also compare this zone here where we consolidated again for like another 5 months. This is our pre-halving move up, and then our post-halving move up over here, right? With our consolidation phase in the middle, our like 4-month, 5-month consolidation phase, and then we broke out. Okay, so now that we've identified those 3 parts, let's work it backwards, or let's work it forwards. I guess we just worked it backwards. Let's go from here, and I want to put it on the daily time frame. I hope that makes sense. I hope everything I've gone over, you understand why I'm going over it, right? Because again, if not, I don't know how to better explain it, but essentially, right, end of the bull market, or end of the bear market, beginning of the bull. This is your pre-halving move. This is your post-halving move, and this is that consolidation in the middle. We just broke out of our consolidation in the middle, so I want to compare that to what we did previous cycles, right? So if we're looking at the daily RSI here, because the reason why I want to identify this, the reason why I want to go over this, guys, is a lot of people, myself included, got yesterday's price action wrong. And I'll pull up a different chart. That way I don't have to go back and find all this stuff. Scroll back to the right time, right? Yesterday, I was calling for a little bit of a correction. I was pretty confident that we'd go down to 84K to 85K, and we just smashed through, man. We went right up to 93.5K. I did say several times, and in every video that I've made for more than the last week now, I've been saying no matter what you think, if you think it's going to go up, if you think it's going to go down, whatever, it's time to buy, right? Ever since we broke this pre-halving high, it is time to buy, and there's no other right answer to give, right? And the reason why I want to compare these last cycles is there's moments like this, right? And again, this is the current cycle. I want to just show you, right? There's moments like this where you look at the 4 hour, okay? You're moving up. You're moving up. You got higher highs. Volume's declining as you're moving up. You're starting to roll over. Everything about this from a technical perspective, if you're a technical analyst, you wouldn't think, and the RSI, right? You were overbought, had bearish divergence, you got out of the overbought zone. Everything about it would scream, this is going down. And yet it went up. You found support in the right areas. On the RSI, you bounced right off the 60. There were bullish things too, but at that last minute there, you would have this whole time, or especially as it progressed, it would look more and more convincingly like it would go down. Even though it's very convincing, though, you went up. Same thing over here with what we experienced yesterday, right? This little zone right here on a 1 hour perspective, this pattern, this formation, it duped everybody, man. Go on CryptoX from yesterday. People probably deleted their stuff, but most people probably haven't, but there's some people who are afraid to be wrong, right? But this look, absolutely bearish. Like there's no, the probability that we don't go below those lows is way lower. It's like 20%, but this is that 20% of the time we go up. And of course it is, because it's in this phase that we're trying to analyze, right? And we're trying to figure out why, or maybe the tendencies behind these disrespects in what's expected using technical analysis. Because technical analysis at this point has failed us twice, I would say, right? And there's, again, I wouldn't necessarily completely say that it's failed us twice, right? But there have been, I think the 4 hours the better, there have been multiple times that very much toward the end, right before we went up, right before we went up to that next phase each time, it was looking the most convincing that we were about to roll over. Just a little bit, not anything dramatic, nothing that would like crush the price down to zero, but just a standard correction. We're in a phase where we're not doing standard corrections, and I want to compare that and see if that's what we do and how long do we do that for, right? And I think we're going to find some compelling stuff. I haven't looked at these charts yet myself. I wanted to do it just on the fly here. So if this doesn't seem completely put together, it's because it's not. We're going to figure this out together, right? We're going to figure it out together here. All right, so on a daily basis, right? And this is where a lot of people, I think, will make the mistake, right? You're looking at it, if we're looking at it here on a daily basis right now, we're overbought. And this is kind of where I got it wrong too. Looking at the daily, we're pretty overbought. We're at the 88, right? And if we look at the daily RSI for the trend that it has, it looks kind of like we're at the top. It would make sense that we come down, and maybe we do. We still could. But the idea that a lot of people are going to have is that we're so overbought. We've been overbought for a little while now. It would make sense that we take a rest, right? But back in the, not even the first cycle, but the first kind of cycle post-halving that we had, look at how long on a daily perspective you remained in the overbought zone. Now, of course, this is a totally different move, right? Totally different move. But in this time, I mean, from a high to a low, you dropped 20%. High to a low here, you dropped 16%. High to a low here, you dropped 21%. Not really even like breaking out of that 20% range up until about March, right? Then you drop 30%. You have some bigger drops going up here. I can already tell that's probably a pretty similar drop, right? About 30% there, right? Sizably bigger than any of the drops you'd seen before. And of course, as you go on, the moves will get bigger up and down, right? That makes sense. But time and time again, where everybody probably expected with each of these drops that you were going to see something more of a more substantial correction and cool off a little bit, you didn't. You just stayed hot and continue to stay hot, right? And again, this was your halving right here. This was your halving here. So you broke out of it here, and you really didn't. And this is where a lot of people, I think, get it wrong, myself included. But we're not going to now. We're going to get the decryption right here. Is that they think that just because Bitcoin's prone to these 30%, 40% dumps, that it means we have to. I was watching some YouTube videos today. Oops, I should not have done that, man. I knew I shouldn't have done that. Shouldn't have done that. I got to go all the way back in time. I have a different chart pulled up for that stuff. Let's see here. Where are we at? We're almost there. A couple more years back, and safe and sound. Okay, where was I? What was I saying? A lot of people are expecting that we should do anything from a 20 to a 40% pullback. So whenever you think that way, you think already that right now prices below 80K are on the table, right? I even said that yesterday, that I thought we could go, and I said very clearly that I doubted we go below 80K, but that I accepted it as a possibility. I'm starting to doubt more and more as we look at this stuff that going below 80K is a probability. I think it's a very unlikely possibility at best. But 20% drop, nothing for a bull market correction, right? We've seen greater than that, but for here, initially breaking out of that halving, that was the most that we saw, was basically like a 20% drop. So that would take us to 74.5K. But again, this was a much bigger cycle. This was the first bull market after the halving. I think the next 2 cycles will give us a more realistic look, but I think this is still important to look at, right? So far, to put it in kind of a similar perspective, I don't know how much people are liking this video or not. If you're liking the video, hit the like button. But I know stuff like this can be boring sometimes, but this is, you know, this is some of the homework. This is like the real work doing this right now. So buckle up, sit tight. This way you can better understand where I'm coming from, and maybe it will retain better in your head as well. But I know a lot of you do enjoy this kind of stuff too, but some people don't have the attention span, and I get it, but I'm getting off track here, right? Talking about Bitcoin so far on this move up, the biggest drawback that we've seen, I believe is this one, from a high to a low, was 5.8%, right? Everything else so far has been like less than 4%, right? From a high to a low here, 3.5%. I think that was the biggest drop we've had up until recently. Yeah, 5.5%, 5.8%. These 2 drops here, getting bigger on the way down, right? And we're getting bigger on the way up, kind of like last time, right? You're getting bigger on the way up, on like your moves down are getting bigger, and you're getting bigger moves up as you're moving up as well. So that might be something to take into consideration. Just because we were moving down 3.5%, 2% before, and now we're moving down 5% or 5.5%. That doesn't mean that it's time to correct. It just means that we're right on path, right? Our moves are getting bigger up, so we're going to see bigger corrections on the way up. We're still getting higher lows. Volume is still coming in. We're still really strong on the RSI. There's no reason to go down, right? A lot of people were just stuck in this mentality from the consolidation that we just broke out of, that we have to pull back because that's normal, but we're not in a normal phase of the bull cycle, right? And what's normal for this phase is just up. It's just up most of the time, and the downside moves, as you can see, are very quick-lived. They're not long-lived at all, right, on this road up here. All right, so anyways, that's the first one. I want to kind of do some more stuff actually real quick. You were overbought here. You were basically overbought, dude, for 91 days, essentially. On the 91st day after being overbought, you got out of the overbought zone. And really, maybe I shouldn't measure how long you've been overbought, but how long you were moving up in the overbought. It's the same number, 91 days. Okay, so 91 days. Because on that day where you broke out of the overbought zone, you topped off. So 91 days of being overbought. And you continuously found support on the overbought zone or even just above it. Maybe we should put a line right there. Just see if that carries over, okay? But you did bounce off the overbought zone, okay? Even stuff like this, living in it and then bouncing off the 50, that's nice to see. But that was not equivalent to your post-halving breakaway, right? Your pre-halving move, and then this all we've measured so far is really equivalent to breaking this horizontal line, which again is your pre-halving high. So this is after you break that, your post-halving move, right? Okay. Let's keep going. Let's keep going, right? The next halving didn't happen. This is all part of the same bull market here, so we're not going to analyze that. Next halving didn't happen until 2016, July. This over here, right here, we'll zoom in a little bit. Again, this line here being the line that we basically respected as support time and time again on a daily perspective, the previous cycle, right? So here we are. Here's our, and I'm not going to zoom out completely because I just zoomed in, but from the low of the bear market, moved over, began your bull market. Here's your pre-halving high, because the halving was in July 9th. So the halving was over here, pre-halving high there. Okay, I hope that makes sense. Now we're looking at the move a little bit zoomed in. Okay, so this is your pre-halving high. We'll put a line right there. You broke this line finally over here, right? Consolidated, getting up close to it. Then you broke out of it. Okay, and this time you were not overbought, obviously, as long. You got overbought a little bit, pulled back, a lot more extreme pullbacks along the way. Sure, we can see that. How long were you overbought this time? Right, you got overbought right here, technically on that day right there. Then you got overbought out of the overbought zone here, which coincidentally was the same day that you topped off, just like last time. So 19 bars. That's a hell of a lot of a difference. 19 days versus 91 days. But you can see the move's different too, right? This is a lot less parabolic. It is still parabolic, but it's a lot less. It's a lot different in structure, a lot more volatile on the way up, right? This whole phase, in fact, you can kind of argue is like a giant sideways phase. Even though, yes, you had some nice moves up time and time again, but very intense crashes along the way. And I want to address this, right? It was kind of the same. These crashes are a lot bigger this time around, right? You have a lot less significant ones on the way up and then more significant ones that are just spaced out. Okay, we can see that, but they were still fast, right? The moves up took much longer than the moves down did. So something, and that was the same from the last cycle too. So that's something to note, okay? Don't get stuck in this thought process that the moves down have to take 8 months. Don't get Stockholm syndrome. You don't want to go back there. The moves down, guys, aren't even going to take 2 weeks, right? Like, let's just see. Maybe they will. Let's see. From a high to a low, that took 7 days. Okay, so that was about a week there. From a high to a low there. All right, 15 days. You got me. It took a little bit more than 2 weeks. But see, you know what I mean? It's not going to take long. These moves down are not going to take long throughout the cycle, right? And even here, this one was kind of long, but even then, probably less than a month, right? Okay, a little bit over a month, 34. That's kind of long. But we will probably see one last grand kind of consolidation that is longer than a month. I say grand consolidation. I just mean a larger phase of consolidation that's longer than a month. We'll probably see something like that next year, maybe around the halfway point or going into the summer, like we normally do. But okay, 19 days. We were overbought for 19 days after breaking above this here, or yeah, I guess that was right after we broke above the line. So 19 days there before we topped off, and going back to that same kind of idea that I've talked about really for like half a month now, from this high to this high, whenever you broke your pre-halving high, okay, the high that you went to within 4 weeks, okay, because if we look at this for what it is, we go on a weekly period here, you go back here, we go all the way, oh, can we go all the way back? We have that, yeah, okay. So your pre-halving high was right here. Nope. Right there. When you broke it, it was here. 4 weeks later, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks was this top. That's the same top as this right here, okay? Right? So your initial move, what I'm getting to, your initial move after breaking above your pre-halving high, I know it's a lot of context to kind of get sandwiched in there together in the right order, but the initial move up, okay, how far it went was 46.7%. From the high point, right? Overall, of course, it was longer, but once you broke this high, the pre-halving high right there, once you broke it, that's when things really started to move up, right? So this is the move we're measuring within a 4-week period, okay? Something to go off of. And then afterwards, of course, too, right? Noting these drops afterwards, I think will be important, but what I'm really trying to get is this move that we're in the middle of right now, what we can expect. Okay, what we can expect. And for 19 days, you were overbought before getting out of the overbought zone, okay? And on the way up, man, can I look, if I go to 4 hour, will it bring me, it brings me all the way back to 2024. So we're not going to do that. Oh no, it did. It took me all the way out. So that's okay. We'll make it right. I hate that. I wish TradingView got their shit together where if you just switch time frames, it would put it in the same scope. I don't know how difficult that is, but it must be difficult because they won't. Does that make sense, right? If I click on 4 hours, it takes me all the way back to 2024. Here I am in 2017, if that doesn't make sense. Okay, so on the way up, we can't get the exact precise measurements, but no real pullbacks. I guess from here and down, you saw a 1.95% pullback there. From here, from the high to the low, you saw a 7% pullback at the most, right? And there were, if we looked at the 4 hour, I bet we would decipher there were plenty of times, just like now, that would make sense for us to go down. Look, even here, if you take this away, we'll just remember 19, okay? I'll probably put that back. But from a high here, you have a lower high. That's bearish divergence. You had bearish divergence right here. And look, you just kept going up. Look at what that bearish divergence in your overbought zone, after even getting into the 90s in your overbought, very hot with bearish divergence, all you did was you dropped 5.7. You dropped less than this move, right? How many people were probably expecting a huge pullback? And eventually it came. But if you were shorting here or waiting to buy here and the price pumped another 17%, are you going to FOMO in at the top? Like how confident are you waiting for that pullback? And eventually it did come. You're vindicated. I'm not guaranteeing that we're going to get a pullback of this magnitude this cycle, but Just saying, we still moved up a large portion, even with these bearish factors in mind, and we stayed overbought for 19 days. So I want to throw that back on there. 19 days, okay, cool, something like that. And then as we continued past that, after our initial corrective phase, which we might have something like this, we might not, we don't know, we'll see. You know, we didn't see, let's see, from a top to a bottom there, 6% move down, 7% move down, high to low, 6% move down. Here we go, a little bit more dramatic. 13%, nothing crazy still though, right? 10.5% move. No big moves down, right? And you can see that these all take a very short amount of time, right? They take like 2 days at the most, 1 day at the most. Obviously, these bigger corrective phases take longer, but they're still short, relatively speaking. And then from that high to that low there, that's an overall, how much is that of a drop? 33%, right? So 33% drops. Still firmly in the bull market where we're seeing the strength happen. But again, on this next move, it was some time before we even saw a sizable drop. So just to let that be known, 19 bars the first time, 91 or 91 the first time, 19 the second time. They kind of swapped places as far as digits go. Let's go to the next one here. I hope this video is as fun for you guys as it is for me. I'm actually having fun with this, and I don't know. I don't know if it's exciting or enticing to anybody else to watch, right? But I wanted to make this. Whenever I came up with the concept today of what I wanted to do, I was like, I was actually kind of excited to make this video. Okay, so bull market over, right? 2017. We just went over the 20. I'm not on it, but the 2016 halving area. This was the end of that bull cycle, pulling all the way back down. End of your bear cycle, beginning of the bull cycle here. This was your high before your halving over here, right? It's a bit further away. It's a bit of a strange cycle altogether, but I think this makes the most sense to say your high before your halving, because whenever you break this high, if you want to count this as the high, when you break that, you're still stalling for such a long amount of time. That's not breaking your pre-halving high behavior. This what we do when we break this high, this fits what we've seen so far from the behavior of breaking your pre-halving high. So as I've done this analysis so many times, I really do feel confident and comfortable calling that the pre-halving high. So we'll put our line there. There's our little line. Actually, I'll delete. Oh, I hope I didn't delete everything already, but we'll see. We'll put our line there. I got it remembered or memorized anyways. Oh, we want it on the daily. We want it on the daily. Okay. So pre-halving high would have been here. Yes. Right there. Okay. So we broke it over here. And when we broke it, leading up to it, actually even before we broke it, we were in the overbought zone. So let's just count that, right? Overbought here, because that's what we're going for, is like how long we were overbought for. And then you got out of the overbought zone there. So 36 days. And did you top off on that 36th day? Yes, you did. And then you had a correction. That correction was the size of, and it only lasted 2 days, I might add, 16.7%. So again, not a 20% drop, not a 30%, not a 40% drop like we see in these significant pivots in the bull market, but we don't see these significant pivots happen around the time of breaking away from this pre-halving high. Does that make sense? Everybody, not everybody, but I see a lot of people on YouTube and on X talking about these 20 to 40% drops that we could experience because we've gone up so much in a short amount of time, but we just keep going up anyways, and we're going to keep going up anyways. Those 20 to 40% drops, they're not happening anytime soon. I say not anytime soon. I just mean probably not this week. It might happen if we keep moving up at an unprecedented rate, but again, even if it does happen, it's going to be very short, right? We're not going to see any, I don't think we're going to see any extreme drops for a while. And certainly not till this move is done, which at this rate, I'm thinking we have a good bit of at least 2 more weeks, if not more, to go. But 36 days. And even then, like 16.7%, that's not much. 2 days? Dude, you could go on a vacation for like a week. You came back and it was actually higher, right? And then again, similar kind of look as to what we had on our current price area. I'm not going to look at it, but our current 4 hour, it kind of has this like double top look. Looks like it should have gone down, and right when it's there, it just holds support at the perfect moment, and then it moves up, right? This part of the chart looks super bearish. You have bearish divergence going on here. From this high, lower highs here, it's double bearish divergence. You even completed the bearish divergence, right? That actually does complete the bearish divergence, and then you just moved up. Or a lot of people probably expected that would mean that you go lower. But again, probabilities to go lower, even though that's what it looks like in this move, it doesn't matter. Those probabilities get like reversed, right? You just kind of, the more probable that it looks to go to the downside, the more likely you're about to blow up to the upside. But that was your initial move, right? And from the high, the pre-halving high, that initial move was up like 43% in the course of, basically from October 28th to December. So in like the very 1st of December. So basically a month's time, right? That was the 2020 halving. So that was the last cycle halving. Now we can move to this halving, kind of going through what we've gone through so far. So we know we've seen a 91-day count on the first cycle where we were overbought and we did not get out of the overbought zone on a daily perspective for 91 days. That's insane. Okay, that was a very insane cycle. Probably not going to happen again. Probably nothing near that. But we've had it, 91. Okay. Then after that, we had 19 days in the overbought zone, undefeated, completely in the overbought zone for 19 days, topped off on that 19th day, and then moved down. Then, most recently, I can't remember, it was 36 days. And even then, we moved down like 16% over 2 days, very fast. But I wouldn't even say that was the end of the move. We had this like bear trap. And then we had like the top, but that was just more, this was an overall consolidation phase, and it got us up for a very eruptive move where we had a more significant consolidation phase, right? More significant consolidation. Man, I wonder. We'll do that next. Okay, we'll do that next. I wonder when, I want to see if we can measure when these like next huge consolidation phases, not even that huge really, but these more significant consolidation phases, I want to see from a time perspective. That part will go quick. I want to do that next, but let's see here. All right, 2024, right? Post-halving, pre-halving high right here in March of this year, right? It happened right before our halving. We just broke it, okay? We have been overbought now since November 6th, okay? Since this day here. Well, we're at 8 days. 8 days of being overbought. We didn't move up in a straight line those other 2 or 3 cycles. We didn't move up in a straight line, right? Not at all. Not at all do we move up in a straight line, but basically, right, on the way up, all we had, and this was the only one I didn't measure this actually, but from a high to a low, you saw a 10% drop there. Okay, a little bit more intense than what we've seen so far. High to low here, 4% drop. That's more on par with what we've seen. Then you had your 16% drop pretty quick, but even like intraday, the biggest you saw was basically 10% or less of a drop up until, you finished that initial breakout move, you consolidated, but even then that wasn't that intense. Going back in time, same kind of things, right? The most that we saw was kind of moves that were less than 20% or less than 10% down. 13% here, 10% there, 5% there, 6%, 7% there, 7% here on the way up, right? Stuff like that. And you got your big move down, which was, I don't know how much of a percentage that was actually. Probably like 30%, right, to the downside. And then same thing with the first time, but the first one, again, was a lot more parabolic and a lot crazier, okay? So this one we had, I think, a lot bigger drops. But even then, these 16, 20%, 30% drops, they were quick. They were very short-lived drops. Okay, so is that even right? Why did I draw that high to low? It shouldn't have been that way. It should have been like this. It actually should have been, I think, this high to this low here. There we go. So that was 17%. I don't know. I was just breezing through it. But let's go back. Okay, let's compare it here. Okay, put it all together. Putting it all together. 8 days so far. So from a minimum time perspective, again, in that minimum one, which we saw was 19 days, by the way, that would put us into the 25th of November, baby. Hey. That we, at a minimum of time that it would take for us to top off of this initial move up, right? We're 9 days into it, right? Is it 9 days or was it 8? It's 8 days. We're 8 days into it right now. We've got more than double the time left, and this is what we've done so far, right? From the high. We've already moved up so far. And technically, on our 8th day, we're on our 8th day now, but on our 7th day, we moved up 27%. At a minimum, from what we've seen in previous cycles, 19 days, we've got 11 days left, you guys. We've already seen this kind of, I think it's going to be great, right? I don't expect, probably unlike most people, and I think if you looked at this chart for what it is, without watching this video at all, without having this frame of mind in thought at all, you would look at this and be like, we're overbought right now. We're pretty overbought, actually. We're the most overbought we've been in a while. it would make sense to cool off, right? It's very logical thinking. All of it, the TA would suggest, and if you're logical, look at the daily volumes coming down, you're moving up, you've got the wicks, like blah, 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 you know, you've hit your fib extension zones, right? If you go on a weekly basis here, you go from a high to a low, right? You basically tipped your 1618 golden extension, like right there, right? All the right things are all in all the right places to make sense that you'd pull back. The TA is perfect in that sense. But the price action doesn't care. Bitcoin doesn't care. The TA can be perfect and it can still get it wrong, right? And that's what I'm trying to say is I think anybody, if you didn't have the logic that we've laid out in this video, it would make sense that it pulls back. But now, after going through everything that you've been through already through this video, I don't know how long it's been, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I don't know. I feel like it makes more sense that we are not even close to seeing any kind of significant consolidation, right? Anything really that we saw that was greater than a 20% and on average greater than like a 10 to 15% loss, anything that we saw that was greater than that only happened after this 19-day period. And to be fair, who knows? This cycle could be longer. It could be shorter. We could see the shortest stint in the overbought zone that we've ever seen. I don't think so. I don't think we're going. I think it is going to be longer than 19 personally. That's just my belief. But you know, however long it's going to be, where was I going with that? It's, you know, we definitely have more time. If we're at 8 days now, even if it wasn't 19, maybe it was 15 or 14 days, right? We've still got a pretty relatively sizable amount of time to do some damage. And in that time, I wouldn't personally expect that we see anything larger, too much larger than like a 10% drop. And right, all the things that we've seen so far, we can do it on the 4-hour, pulling it up, right? All these little drops so far are right in line with what we expect. This whole time too, right? Going up. And I said it really going up until yesterday. I was like, people are expecting us to drop because we dropped more, right? From a high to low here, the drops are getting bigger, right? Because we dropped 5.3%. So this is more compelling that we would drop. But it's more compelling just because we're going from 3.5% to 5.3%. That's not what's that going to mean? We drop more, we're going to drop 10%. Okay, that's not that intense at all. We're going to drop to 80K at the most. That's not that intense at all. And you want to wait. You're at 89K. You want to wait and hope that it pulls down there. Hope that it does, so that you can catch the next move up when you could just buy here. Like it's likely not going to, right? If none of that made sense, all I'm trying to say is if you're waiting for the move to come down, it's likely not going to. It's possible. We've seen these moves throughout this breakout, this post-halving breakout move, where you did get 10, 16, 15% pullbacks, right? We did see that, right? But most of those came after that initial time in the daily overbought zone and the RSI, right? Which we're nowhere near fulfilling that, in my opinion, right? And every single time, I would bet, going back in the previous cycles, we haven't looked at it on a 4-hour perspective, but I would bet every single time on the shorter term time frames, there were a lot of signs that would suggest you're going lower, but they got outweighed by the higher time frames, right? And that tends to be the case in these more bullish or even like significantly bearish breakout moves, okay? So my theory is, all that to say, and I don't even remember what it was that I wanted to go over that I got sidetracked with before I went over this last part. Hopefully I can bring it back. But all that to say, from a recorded historical perspective, 19 days is the minimum amount of time that we've been overbought in a row, right? If you're overbought in a row, I doubt we're going to spend the next, if we're on day 8 now, I doubt we're going to spend 11 days slowly trickling down, right? We could be red and see 11 days of red and still be overbought if we slowly move sideways and down, but I don't think that's going to happen. That's not characteristic of any of the moves we've seen, right? It would make sense that we just keep moving up. Anything, basically, essentially what this is telling us, because this is the minimum perspective we're going over, anybody out there predicting a move, myself included, who's calling for Bitcoin from any point to move down more than 10%, statistically speaking, is not likely to happen. It's not going to happen. More than 20%, probably not going to. Like, it's not just a statistical likelihood. It's like it's a probability that it's not going to happen, right? Anybody calling, so now that we've got that out of the way, right? Anything basically greater than 16%, I think is kind of out of the loop, in my opinion, right? So that put us like 78K at the most that we could drop, and that's only if that's the high, right? If we keep going higher, these drops get less and less probable unless we're considering something a little further out, maybe next month or something that does bring us a little bit more of a significant drop. But even then, even if we saw a 20 to 30% drop, it would probably take a day to 2 weeks at the most, and not even 2 weeks, probably like a week or so. It can take longer, but again, I'm not expecting a month-long or longer consolidation phase to happen until we're later in the cycle. And that reminds me of what I wanted to go over. Right? I think this consolidation phase of this move, it will happen later at higher prices. It'll be short-lived and intense, and then we'll continue to go up. Right? That's kind of my perspective. So yeah, going forward, if anybody asks you, I had some guy laughing at me in my video yesterday. He can't read, or he must be illiterate or something, because he was talking about me FOMOing in at the top and that he would be happy to sell his bags to me. I've been in crypto since 2015, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what your comprehension is of knowledge, but dude, no, you're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not FOMOing in, right? And even if you're buying here, even if you have FOMO, I don't think these are FOMO prices. Yes, it's late. It's late in consideration to the breakout move, but really, as I've been saying since down, I forget when, it's like since the end of the month of October, maybe this whole time, I forget when, but since then, every single day, and especially like this week, I've been saying it's the time to get in, right? Park your money somewhere. Stop messing around. Get in now, right? I did everything I could to scrape together like a little bit of cash, like whatever I could. I was literally talking about just a personal thing. I don't like to throw numbers out there or talk about money. It's not like a significant number. It's just something, but my wife and I had to make a payment on something today, and it costed a little bit over $1,200, but we had the option to make a payment plan. And she said, well, if it's $1,200, because we have the money to pay it off right now, $1,200 full. So she's like, well, let's just pay it off, right? It's nice to not worry about it. It's tax stuff, so like it's nice to not worry about it. And I get that, but I told her, I'm like, what if we just make a payment plan, pay $100 a month, okay, and then we use the rest of that money that we were going to pay our taxes with, put it in the markets right now because it's so explosive. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, and I get how this could sound a little bit degenerate to some people, right? But again, I've been doing this, you guys, for 8 years, over 8 years, doing technical analysis. I've been involved in the crypto market since 2015. This is not a large amount of money I'm talking about, right? I'm not squandering away my life, but I am doing what I think is smart, which is instead of paying $1,200 now and then trying to scrape together money later whenever the prices are already higher, I'm going to make a minimum payment. I'm going to minimize my expenses the most that I can. I'm going to scrape together, even though it's only $1,000. And I say that $1,000 could be a lot. I don't want to diminish or discount anybody who is investing right now with less than $1,000. You got to start from somewhere, bro. I hit zero like 4 times in my life living at my mom's house. Okay, like living at my mom's house as a 20-year-old adult, over 20 years old, right? Like, it's no shame if $1,000 is a lot of money to you, and it is. I don't care if you have $1 million. $1,000 should be a lot of money to anybody. In the grand scheme of the world, even $1 million is not a lot of money. But that's what I mean whenever I say I don't know how much a lot of money is, because it's different for everybody. Okay, to me and to her, especially to her, I hear the sense. If you stick with me, this I have a point. I promise, guys. I'm about to get done with it. Is that the idea of just paying off the $1,200 to pay off what we owe to the IRS, getting that out of the way, getting the headache, that's nice. That sounds relieving, and I feel that. I hear the logic. But I'm the kind of person, I'm tenacious, and that extra $1,000 by the end of the year could turn into $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 if I park it in the right thing, if I do the right trades, if I do the right maneuvers. I'm not going to squander it away, right? I have a different, but what I'm doing, I'm not leverage trading, right? I'm not taking that $1,000, I'm not leverage trading. I'm not going to go leverage trade it and piss it away like that. I'm going to put it probably not in Bitcoin, but in some top tier altcoins that have serious potential to at least double, if not dramatically higher than that by the end of the year, right? All the meanwhile, I'm making minimum payments on what I have so I can scrap together that extra money. All I'm trying to say, the reason why I went off on my whole personal venture of a story there is to use that as an example to say that it is not, I did that, right? I'm doing that. It seems so insignificant, maybe to most people or maybe not to most people. I don't know. But to me, it seems like such an insignificant thing to even get worked up over, right? And I kind of like argued with her over it because I wanted to do it. But it's you do that enough times, that extra $1,000, that extra $10, that extra $100, you do that enough times, it adds, right? Then you've got rent for free one you know, like because you saved $10 or $100 aside that you could have spent going out, or you could have spent doing something, but it turned into a lot of money. Or you go on a vacation, or you've got Christmas presents, right, because you took that extra cash and you allowed it to grow. Be tenacious. Think about, like, right now it might seem, and the reason why I'm getting carried away on this is because to me this is like this is almost religious to me right now, what I'm preaching. Okay, a lot of people right now feel like they're late to the party. And I feel like I might be the only person, maybe not the only person, I'm sure there's other people, but I haven't heard it too much, that it's not too late, but we're getting there, right? You need to get in now. This is a great time to get in because it's a no-brainer. You get in, it's going to go up. You close your eyes for a week, it's going to be up above 100K. Next week we're going to be up above 100K. If not by the end of this week, you guys, we're at 90K right now. After all the analysis we just went through, we're going to be overbought until the end of this month. You think we're not going to be at 100K next week, or maybe even by the end of this week? You don't think it's going to happen? We're going to be well above 100K by the end of this month. It's a great time to buy. No, you're not buying at 73K. No, you're not buying all the way down here at 50K or 49K where you could have bought. Boo-hoo. You get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. And maybe you have been buying, but now you've been saving money and you wanted to get in after this last pullback, but it didn't come in. You're already invested in crypto, but oh no, now you've got this money sitting on the side. Boo-hoo, suck it up and just put your money in here. That's what I did. I literally put in, and I put in more than what I talked about today because I had funds scratched together from some other stuff too, but I'm putting together whatever I can. Even if it seems insignificant, I don't care if it was $100. If I could make it, and I actually did cash a $113 check. I got a very, a small check from something, and I got excited because I'm like, oh, I can put that into the exchanges right now. I don't know how this all sounds. I hope I don't sound vain or crazy, or I don't even know how it would come across. I'm really just trying to share my experiences with my life. I don't really talk about my personal stuff too often. Anybody who's watched this channel, you know that's true. I kind of keep that private, but I'm using it as a kind of example of how you should be, right? Not financial advice, but at the same time, get your shit together. Get any and all. Get your coin jar. Dump it in the bank right now, right? Sell your Pokemon cards, whatever. It's the time to get into Bitcoin. Scrap up together what you can. It doesn't matter how much it is. It could be $10. If you can turn $10 into $100 by the end of the year, wouldn't you want to do that? If all you can scrap together is $10, I would bet by the end of the year, which is only a month and a half, $100 would make a difference for you. That could be the difference between going out on Christmas or not. Or saving up money and letting it grow for later in the cycle. I'm just saying, there's no too small amount. There's literally no too small amount. I mean that. I think that's the way that you need to be. It's the time to get in. It's the time to get in right now, and that time is closing. That's the main thesis of everything that I've been going over for probably like the last 16 minutes now. But I digress. Let's do one more thing before we end the video. I probably scared everybody off with that last bit, but let's just keep going on, okay? I would like now to identify when we had our first significant consolidation phases after the halving, breaking the pre-halving high, right? So broke the pre-halving high here. In this cycle, we didn't, maybe we have to look at it on a daily. Maybe we just have to. Because in a week, you could miss a whole lot, right? Like that could, I mean, right here, for example, I don't know, maybe not. It's not, but you could, right? You could see Bitcoin drop like 2 days. It could drop 20% over 2 days and then bring it back up over the next 3 days. And then I guess you would see that. You'd get a wick. I don't know. I'm going to look at the dailies, okay? We're looking at the dailies. Pre-halving high here, breaking above it. A little bit of a move down here, right, from a high to a low. You dropped like 20%. That is more significant than what we see on average, but that wasn't a significant consolidation phase compared to this, right? This was kind of your first significant consolidation phase, but even then, I wouldn't say that was your, I mean, maybe for this move, maybe it was. So maybe just honestly, that's what we're going to count, because other than that, it would be this up here. We'll count both of them, but I want to see how long it took. Okay, so if it doesn't make sense what I'm saying, just pay attention. It will, I promise you, or at least it should. 48 days is how long it took until we saw our first semi-significant consolidation. When I say semi-significant, I mean we only consolidated from the 6th of March until the 18th of March. Okay, 12 days. From a high to a low, we dropped 32%, and that happened in the first day. 12 days consolidation, 1 day of dropping, really, right? And another day of shaking you out, getting those long leverages out of there, short leverages building so you can break out. But 48 days, okay, 48 days after breaking above the pre-halving high. The next one, which this to me absolutely seems like a more significant consolidation phase, that started 83 days, okay, 48, 83. I think that's of note, right? This was not the end of the bull cycle. No, it was, we had like a kind of mini stall in the middle of the bull cycle, but we've seen that before, right? And then this was the end of your bull cycle over here, okay? So 83 days, but 48 days, if you want to be technical, maybe 83 days, if you want to be obvious. I don't know how else to think of it, so let's keep that in mind. 43 and 80, 48 and 83, is that what it was? 48, 83. It'd be easier if it was 48, 84. Okay, so now we're going to 2016. Okay. I hope this makes sense. It should make sense by now, right? Breaking above the high here. I think it's very obvious that we had our first consolidation phase, significant consolidation phase here. And this one was 19 days after, right? This is that 19-day from the high there, or 21 days. Well, I guess you really stopped moving up there after 19 days, but that was your high. So we'll go to the high 21 days after. Then you had your significant consolidation. I don't think that there's any argument there that that's a significant consolidation phase, right? That one took quite a while. Oh, I'm sorry. I was like, this doesn't make any sense. I'm like, this isn't anything what I was expecting. It's because it's not the pre-halving move. This was the pre-halving move. Okay, my bad, you guys. It's coincidentally, it came out to be similar amounts of time, but okay, here we go. Now we're cooking a little bit. Okay, so you broke it here technically on this day, right? You were moving sideways for a little bit, but you did get above it that day. 19 days. Okay, that's what I was thinking, right? Significant consolidation. And even then, that wasn't really that significant, right? It lasted for about a week. And this one lasted for 15 days, right? Those are very short phases of consolidation. More significant than what I'm expecting we see this cycle. And I think they should be noted maybe, but 19 days there, 83. Ooh, 83 again. 83 days. And this phase of consolidation was more significant than this one, but similar in overall size. High to low, 14 days or 15 days, right? I don't know, something to note there. 83 days again, significant pullback. And then really to me, I would say this was kind of your like more, to me, just like looking at the chart, this is more significant. That was 177 days after, but I don't know. I like that 83 and 19. These are more significant pullbacks than the last time. So something to note. So 48, 83, 19, 83. Okay. Going on to the next one, 2020. We're going to get it right this time. We're not going to mess it up in the middle there. May. All right. That would be this high over here. Right? Broke the high over here. And you had a little consolidation phase right here, right? Broke the high technically this day. So after that day, you had a little consolidation phase, and that was 25. You know, you topped off 31, but you kind of started it here on like your 20th day, whatever. But I don't know if I would acknowledge that as a consolidation phase. This to me looks more significant. So let's just, I feel like that's obvious, right? Kind of obvious, but very obvious, right? 69 days. 69, right? Instead of 83 this time. So 69. I don't know. We could, just because we've given 2 with all the other ones, we could do that for this one too, but I don't know where to draw it from. Did you start consolidating here? One could make it that it was 18 days. One could argue it was 25 days. One could argue that it was 31 days. I don't know. Like really, this whole zone technically would have started back here, so that would have been 18 days. But I don't feel like that's appropriate. That wasn't that significant of consolidation. Though it was consolidation. It was somewhat significant for this move. I feel like that was your more kind of significant consolidation phase. But let's see, how long did they last? Let's be fair. Personally, I would say it started here. When you stopped moving up, you started moving sideways. I would say it started there. And you broke out on this day, so 28 days it lasted. Here, you stopped moving up, started moving sideways. You didn't break out till here. So that was 31 days. So they both pretty close. To be fair, I mean, this one isn't as big in size, but time-wise, it's pretty close. Like a month-long consolidation. This one was 31 days on the dot, so literally a month. This one was just, that was a February month, right? Right there on a non-leap year. So maybe that is more significant than I'm giving it credit for. 18, because that's where I would count it right there, is like kind of when you stop moving up, or maybe this day, 20. We'll say 20. Okay, 20. 20 days and 69. So 48, 83, 19, 83, and then this time 20 and 69. Not really any kind of significance coming out there, other than maybe around that 70 to 80 day mark. That could be when we're expecting to see a more significant pullback, maybe, just based off of the kind of similarities in time frames from breaking out. So if we take that same kind of idea here and apply it, let's just see, you know, that is the high, right? I think that's the high. Well, we broke it this day for sure. So you know, breaking it this day, minimum that we've seen was 19 days, so that would be 25th of November, but we already went over that, right? So before we see some kind of significant consolidation phase that would last anywhere from a week or more, right, as far as time goes, that's what this part of the video is measuring, right? It's not just percentages. These are when we see more significant percentage drops, but this is also when we could start to expect a consolidation phase, a pullback that lasts longer than just a day or two, lasts longer than just a blink, right? This is the stuff that's going to be boring, but just for a second. We're done with the boring times, guys, but we got PTSD. Anything that lasts longer than a day for moving down is going to be boring to us now. We're literally PTSD with this stuff right now. And I hope that's not insensitive to people who actually have PTSD, right? I'm not trying to be. I'm just comparing it. Damn it. So 19 and then 20, pretty close, right? Pretty damn close together. Then we had 48, I believe, which would be in December of this year, before we see a significant pullback, right? We might see a semi-significant pullback sometime at the end of this month, and that could make sense. If you saw my Bitcoin video, I forget which one it was. Let's see. Which one was it? It might have been this one. It could have been the one before. I forget, but I did an analysis showing that most of the time in November's, statistically speaking, are prone. I think it's something like 10 out of 14 of them that we've had, or maybe it was 11 out of 14. I forget, but a majority of them have had 20% or larger drops in the month from any given high to low, right? So with that in mind, that statistical probability, and with this in mind that we've kind of had on our way up, we have that initial kind of pullback, which seems to be less significant, and then later we have a more significant pullback, right? Something, you know, in that first like 20 to 25 days, or maybe like first 18 to 25 days, we get some kind of correction, and then 48 days to 80 days later, that's when we get our next significant correction. I don't know, but it would make sense to me if sometime at the very end of November, maybe to end the month of November, we kind of correct with this frame of mind that we're thinking, right? I was thinking the end of November would be bullish up until like basically today, but I think that November is going to be incredibly bullish. I really do believe we're going to break above 100K. I just wonder if we close above 100K. Maybe we do. Because if we get to 120 and then we pull back 20% at the end of the month, we're still closing above 100%, right? So we're at 100%, so 100K. But anyways, kind of a semi-significant correction, I think, could be expected. All this is saying is not what I'm expecting. I'm just saying what could be expected is that we have a semi-significant correction. Anything that would probably be larger than a 20% move down won't happen until the 25th of this month. We won't begin that drop until the 25th of this month or later. It could take as long as next month. We might not see a significant correction of like 20% or greater that lasts for more than just like a couple days or so until December. It could be then, right? But probably somewhere in that time, right? Either by the end of December or the end of this month, we're going to see, or somewhere in between, we're going to see a somewhat, I'm going to call it a semi-significant correction. Okay, I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. After that, we're going to continue to grow, right? Probably even faster than we're growing now. It's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. And then once we get to this 69-day level, January, right? And this kind of makes sense from a time perspective to me. That's the middle of January. Maybe we see a more significant correction that lasts about a month, that pulls back 30% or more, not 20% or more, but 30% or more now. That could happen in January to start off the year. That kind of makes sense. I think that kind of makes sense, you know, to me, for Bitcoin at least. If not January, we go to 83 days, which we saw two times. It's still January. So sometime, and that wouldn't be, again, this wouldn't be when we hit the lows. This would be when we stop growing and we start moving down. More significant corrective phases that will last about a month, like around a month, 28 days to 31 days or something like that, right? Or longer. And we'll see probably a larger than 30% correction, okay? So all that to say, we will probably, this move, the initial phase of this post-halving growth, I mean, the overall move itself, the post-halving move itself isn't going to stop, right? It's just like this was our pre-halving move. It didn't stop really until here, but it did stop along the way. It did stop along the way, right? So with that same kind of context, this isn't really going to stop until next year, right? Until 2025, October, right? And we're up at like 400K. Like it's going to be on a nonstop moon mission until we're above. I think we're going above 500K by the end of the cycle, you guys, right? Very, very open and clear about that. I really do think we're going to go above 500K. But it's not going to be, obviously, it's not going to be a whole straight move up there. But I would say that from a cycle perspective, from a macro perspective, this could be the consideration of, or it could be considered the beginning of that move, right? But with that in mind, there are phases in each move, right? We have our initial phase, a semi-significant consolidation, we finish the move, and then we have a more significant consolidation. We move up, semi-significant consolidation, more significant consolidation, right? Kind of that idea. And it's coincidentally, it's perfect like that for this cycle, but that's not why I'm saying this. But all I'm trying to say is that by the end of this month, off of everything that we've gone over, by the end of this month, which would be this week here, that's when we could expect our semi-significant consolidation, okay? By the end of, or by the beginning, by the midway point to the end point of January, that's where we could expect our more significant consolidation. Does that make any sense? So basically, we're at the 14th of November now. I think we have a safe bet of at least 11 days or more of growing without seeing any kind of sizable correction to the downside. When I say sizable, I mean anything really that's greater than 10%. If we see something greater than 10%, it can happen. The statistics are less likely that happens, but it does exist. I really doubt we see anything greater than 20%. You know, I would say with a 90+% chance, we don't see anything greater than a 20% pullback until the end of this month, until the 25th or later of November, okay? Till the end of the month. We don't see a 20% or greater pullback until then. And that's probably like a 90+% chance. I would say it's an 80+% chance, maybe a 75% plus chance that we don't see anything greater than like a 12% pullback for the rest of until the end of the month, right? And then we'd probably say, I would say with the same degree, like a 95% or 90% degree of certainty, we don't see a 30% or larger pullback until January, right? So the great pullback, the great kind of significant move that I'm sure a lot of people will call for now until then, it's probably not going to happen until January, right? And again, whenever the pullback does happen, the first one, it's going to be semi-significant. What I mean by semi-significant is it won't drop more than 30%, probably a little bit more than 20%, and that pullback will not last a month. It'll last probably a week to 2 weeks, maybe a little bit longer than that at the most, but it definitely won't last a month. I don't know why, but I'm having a hard time. I'm going to lose my camera here if it doesn't start charging. There we go. So that's it, guys. I think that's it. I don't know if I had anything else that I was trying to say or go from, but essentially with that idea, right, again, if we look at this for what it is, and generally speaking, you can go back in time too and look. I'm not going to do this right now to just to conserve time, but as we progress through this move, we tend to get stronger, right? We moved up fast initially. We had that initial pop, but we're probably not even halfway done. Or maybe we are halfway done. I don't know. From what I know about breaking above the pre-halving high, it would make sense that we are more than halfway done. But with just how eruptive we're moving, I can't help but think we got a lot more, man. Like I was calling for us to be above 100K down at these prices by the end of the month, right? By the end of November, I was calling for it down here. I was calling for it back here, right? And I think I was the only person who was making that bold call. It's a very bold and very bullish call. When we're down here, we're not even above all-time highs, and I'm saying we're going to be at 100K by the end of November, right? But isn't it kind of ironic that now I'm starting to think that might not be bullish enough? As crazy as it might have sounded back then, I think the reality is, guys, even me, the bullish C-Zar, I don't know, man. I don't mean that in a way like even me, I'm special, I'm always right. I've been wrong plenty of times. I'll be wrong again. I've been wrong before, I'll be wrong again. I've been right before, I'll be right again. But it's not about that. I don't care about that, right? If you care about that, you're probably not making money. How does that make sense? How can you not care about being right or wrong and then you're not making money? You have to care about being right. No, you don't. You have to care about risk management. It's all about risk management. Be right 9 out of 10 times, and then on that one time you're wrong, lose all your money. Tell me it's about being right or wrong then. It's not. If you don't have good risk management, it ain't. You got to start there, right? It's like saying foundation. The foundation of a building is all about the drawing. It's like, no, man, it's all about, I mean, I guess planning goes into it. I don't know. It's not, maybe not be the best analogy, but I was going to say it's all about laying the foundation, leveling things out, putting in the, it was not a good analogy. I'm going to move on, okay? But I hope you guys understand what I'm trying to say. Really what I'm trying to say is I want to end this video. But I think that not only will we see prices at like 105 to 110K by the end of this month, but we really do have a chance, I think, of seeing this 123 by the end of the month. What would that mean from a percentage growth after this move here? And that would be a 42% move. Sorry, 43% move, which fits our range, right? This would be about a 50% move up at 110,000, which fits our range as well. And then 123,000 would be larger than any breakout above the halving move we've ever seen. It would be. But times are different this time, guys. Bitcoin ETFs, institutional on-ramps, Donald Trump's president, and he's the first U.S. president. Whether you like him or not, it doesn't matter, because he is. The fact is, he's the first U.S. president to announce that the United States is going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve. I wonder how many countries are going to follow suit with that, right? How many people with pockets that are deeper than any of us could fathom, maybe not fathom, I don't know, let's just say deeper pockets than the average person has. How many people are waiting to scoop this up on every move down that it has, right? If there's a lot of buying demand, because again, this move happened after Trump got elected, after the first president of the United States announced that he wanted to make, and he announced this before, but he wasn't the president-elect at the time, but that he wanted to make a strategic Bitcoin reserve, right? That he basically has Elon Musk appointed as his head crypto guy. He's brought Charles Hoskinson on from Cardano to be part of this crypto board of advisors for the president of the United States, for the government, right? Like, and more. There's other big players in mind too that I'm leaving out that I'm probably forgetting about. But I'm just saying we've got this infrastructure. It's not built out the way that it could be or the way that it will be, but it's getting there. It's more exciting from an infrastructural standpoint, from a regulatory standpoint than it's ever been. Could we see a larger growth by the end of the month than anything we've seen so far in a 4-week time span after breaking above this? I don't know. Statistically speaking, this is improbable, but it's definitely there. I would say it's like 20% or less likely to happen, but I want to address it, right? I haven't addressed it really at all, but I've really addressed this as kind of an end of the year target. And we are at the end of the year, but I mean like before the end of the year. I think this could be an end of the month target, end of November. But genuinely, I am expecting 105 to 110K, if not more, by the end of the month. I really do accept. I've been saying, anything from a 56% move, which is at about 115K, to a 36% move, which is at about 100K itself. I've been saying that. And I really have been thinking that we'd be somewhere in between this whole time. I thought that it would be in the middle. I really did think that we'd be either at 105 or 110. But tonight, and like really over the past 24 hours, looking at the charts, I've kind of gotten under the impression that we could see the largest move up post-halving in the shortest amount of time that we've ever seen. As crazy as that sounds at this high market cap, I'm starting to believe that. I'm not calling for that. I'm just saying I have more faith in that, right? My call, as plainly and accurately as I can put it, is that I think Bitcoin by the end of this month will see prices above 110,000 but below 120,000. That's my call personally, right? And initially it was above 100,000 but below 115. I've moved it up a little bit to 100 because we moved up so much. If none of that makes sense, if you can't get on board with that and you're still watching this video, let me just end the video with this one notion, right? What we started it off with, we had 91 days long in the overbought zone. We had 19 days after that, and then we had 36 days, right? We're on 8 days right now, okay? 8 days of being overbought, of breaking out of the previous high to the halving here, right? And already in that time, already in that 8 days, we've moved up 26%. From the minimum time perspective that we've seen throughout this part of the bull cycle, okay, from the minimum time perspective that we've seen, which would be 19 days, that put us at November 25th. We're 8 days in. That means we have over double the amount of time, okay, that we've already put in. We've seen 26% growth in that time. If we were to double that, bada bing, bada boom, we're at 52%, right? Double that in the next 8 days, and then we still have 3 days left, right? We genuinely could see, and by the way, too, it is expected that as we progress through, that this could get faster. It could get bigger, right? The biggest day that we've seen so far was 10.3%. Who's to say we don't see a day that's 15% or 11% or something that's bigger than that, right? Who's to say that's the biggest day? It absolutely could get bigger. But maybe not, you know, sometimes, I don't know, like here you're moving up, you finish with the big candles, but here, you know, you're moving up, you got your big candles here, but you kind of finish with the small ones, you know, it's all kind of different. I don't know. Let's try and look at this for what it is. Just like our last significant consolidation phase here. Broke out, had big candles, slowly moved up, and then you finished your move with some big candles too, right? And these candles were not bigger than this one, right? So that goes against what I'm saying a little bit. But nevertheless, we're up 26.6% over the first 8 days, technically over the first 7 days. I can't imagine what we're going to see, or I can only imagine, I should say, what we're going to see over the next 8 days and plus, right, for the minimum. By the way, again, this is just the minimum. It could go longer. And if it goes longer, our probabilities of seeing prices above 120K before the end of the month, it only goes up, guys. It only goes up. I'll keep you in tune. I'll keep you tuned. I don't even know what I'm trying to say, man. I'll keep you guys in touch, up to date on what my thoughts are with the market, whether I think we're going to move down, whether I think this is going to be a shorter amount of time that we spend in the overbought zone than we've ever seen, or if it's going to be longer than the minimum time we've seen, which is 19 days. We'll probably know better by the end of the next week, right? By the end of next week, not the end of this week, not this Sunday, by the end of next week. Until then, my friends, this has been a long, fun for me, I love this kind of shit, drawn out video to tell you this simple end of video story. We're moving up and we're not moving down. The most we're going to move down from here will be probably, very statistically likely, less than a 10% move. And if it's a little bit more, maybe it could be like 12% or less. If it gets bigger than that, 16% or less at the most. But that you're getting, as you get further away from 10%, it's more and more unlikely. It can happen, but more and more unlikely. We won't see a greater than 20% drop, at least as early, from the statistical probabilities of our historical references, using technical analysis and just using our brains and eyes. We will likely not see a 20% or greater pullback, 20% to 30% pullback probably, until the end of this month, until 25th of November or later. Right? And it doesn't have to be the end of this month. It could be the end of next month. Again, I'm going from the minimum. It could go longer. This might not be, the move does not have to end at the end of November. It could end in the end of December. It could. Okay, we're going from the minimum. Statistically speaking, that means we actually have a good chance of pushing past that. But at the earliest, the only time that we would see a 20% drop or greater would be at the end of the month of November, 25th or past, okay? And technically, less likely at the 25th, more likely as we progress into December that we would see that 20%/30%, 20 to 30% move down. We won't see a 30% to 40% move. We won't see a greater than 30% move until, to the negative side, until, and it'll probably last for a month or so, give or take, a couple days here or there. We won't see that until January. Mid-January, end January, but probably sometime in January is when the more significant top will come in and we form a more significant consolidation phase. And again, significant in the sense of the move that we are about to create, that we're in the midst of creating, not significant compared to what we just came from. This significant kind of consolidation will not be seen for the rest of the bull market. Okay? It's done. Maybe something half that big? Maybe. Probably not even half that big. Maybe about half that big. It could happen. But something like a month, 2 months, 3 months tops. That's the most we got for the rest of the cycle, right? Cut this in half. We don't have anything like this coming along, right? But for what we're seeing, the most significant consolidation that will probably last a month or so won't happen until January. That's when we get the 30 to 40% drop. And then the consolidation that's semi-significant that could last anywhere from like a week or two maybe even like upwards to 3 weeks, but probably not 3 weeks, probably a week or two. That happens either begins to happen at the end of this month or the end of next month. And again, that'll be a 20 to 30% drop based off of previous expectations. With that, I leave you. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you want to see more content. I'm going to make another video just like this tomorrow, basically shortening it all, right? Giving that last, now that I have all the information, because I like to do this. I like to give the proof. I like to do the work. It takes a long time. Nobody wants to watch these videos, right? Some of you guys do, and I admire that. You should admire it too. You're going to go far, right? What I love about technical analysis, what I love about YouTube is you can watch me do this, right? You might not have thought of the way that I did this, you know, yourself on your own, but now that you've seen it, you know how to do it, because it's not rocket science, right? A monkey could do this stuff, right? We're a little bit more sophisticated than monkeys, so I would have faith that anybody can do what I just did, right? But also maybe it triggered some thoughts in your own kind of head that opened up your eyes to doing analysis similar to what I'm doing, but maybe you caught something that I didn't catch, another frame to look at, or another metric to look at, right? Anybody who's basically watched this video from start to finish, like, I'm beyond saying thank you, I'm trying to say good job, right? Because you're probably absorbing and learning a lot, right? If you're literally watching this from start to finish, you deserve an applause. I like congratulate you seriously, because this is a long video and it's work, man. And if you're trying to do TA, you're trying to understand the markets, you're trying to understand the cycle dynamics, you got to put in the work, man. And I'm going to, for tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, I'm going to put in a video that shortens it up for the monkeys to understand, right? And a lot of us, I'm like that too, right? Now that I can do all this work on my own, I do want to just hear kind of short versions of people's stuff. But I don't know. Sometimes when people make predictions on YouTube, I'm wasting people's time at this point, but when people make predictions on YouTube and they don't back it with any information, I don't like that. I like seeing the proof. Even if it takes an extra 10, 20 minutes, I like seeing the proof. So I don't know, man. I don't know what else to say. Thank you all for being here. We're going to be up higher tomorrow. I'll probably make a shorter version of analysis just to get the short stuff out. But yeah, man, we're going to be genuinely, we have 3 days, 20 hours left. We could be above 100K by the end of this week. If not, end of next week, undeniably, it's happening. It can't be any other way, guys. It can't. We're not going to see any kind of significant pullback until the end of this month. And we're already grades. We already broke 93K. And it's 100K or bust. Is it a good time to get in the markets, C-Zar? F&A right it is, Cotton Swab. Get your ass in the markets. It's time to go up. And with that, I leave you. Take care, everybody. Good night. Bye-bye.